'Tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today is the day where we start our big end of the year lists. And I wanted to start, of course, like last year with my best anime of the year list. This isn't ranked like my other lists are. I wanted to basically celebrate this year anime. I've watched more this year than I ever have in the past. I still don't think I am equipped enough to be able to talk about it in a way to say like these are the best ranked. Like this one's a little bit better than this one all the way up to number one like I can with video games and movies. So this will just be a list of anime that I recommend you watching. If any of these seem interesting to you, by all means go check them out. I will be starting with the new stuff, so not sequels to anything, and then in the back half, I'll be talking about sequels, season 2s, and stuff like that. But without further ado, we got plenty of stuff to talk about here, so let's start off in the winter season. We got an adaptation, that being Nier Automata 1.1a. So this, of course, is based on the video game of basically the same name. The video game is not called 1.1a, but Nier Automata is an excellent game that came out a little bit ago, but it still holds up, obviously. Like, it's not very old, but the story is really weird and really interesting, and the characters are really weird and really interesting. So seeing that in an animated form is, of course, kind of weird, but really interesting. The story follows 2B, a android in a world where robots pretty much have taken over. But the robots play a little bit of a different role than just basic, like, we destroy the world, we want to destroy everybody kind of thing. It's much more nuanced and interesting than just that. And the world building and everything around the games is very much influenced in the show. So you get to see a lot of characters that you may recognize and a lot of set pieces that you'll recognize. And it's great. And it comes of adaptations of video games to anime. Like in Hollywood, it's not a one-to-one perfect track record. Anime typically has a better track record, I would say, but this is on the better side of it. But unfortunately, the show did run into production issues, and for a good chunk of time, it stopped and it ceased, and then they dropped the rest of the episodes in the summer, and then even for the dub watches, they had to wait even longer. So, played with production issues. It's all done now. You can go watch it in your preferred method, either English or in Japanese. It's all there. This is a bit of a rough segue, jumping from one with production issues to another with production issues, but these shows are both so great that they had to be on here anyways. We're talking about Zom 100. So this show is a zombie show, and it's on Netflix. It's a bit of a weird place for it, but Netflix is getting more and more anime, so I guess we have to get used to it. This show is basically a love letter to zombie media. It loves being a zombie show, it loves doing zombie things and playing around in the tropes of that, but it also tells its own story. It has great characters, and it's not afraid to be uber fun and exciting and uplifting, but then pull your heartstrings when it wants to and be terrifying when it wants to. Like, it reminds you it's a zombie show when it wants to roll back and knock you out. Like, it's not afraid to do that. Have a whole episode where it shows off a great new character and you fall in love with them, and then all of a sudden it's ripped away from you at a split second because it's a zombie show. The apocalypse isn't fun, even though they try to make it fun. It's great. It plays with zombie tropes, like I said, in a much more interesting way. There is a movie adaptation too, like if you're super adverse to animation, but if you are, I don't know why you're watching this video. The anime is way better than the movie though, so check that out. Let's jump from one intense show to another intense show. Let's talk about Hell's Paradise. So this is a shonen, a big action battler with a ton of characters in it, a ton of overpowered villains, basically. So imagine a shonen where it was just bad people doing bad things. There's a couple good people in there too, but like hearts of gold, maybe backstories that don't line up because they're liars and they don't always tell the truth, but they're powerful, and they're basically given a mission to explain it like this. There's like a pit with some like sap in it, and we gotta get the sap, but we can't get the sap because everything on this island wants to kill us. So let's use villains, kind of like a Suicide Squad thing, to go and get the stuff. That's basically it. So then you get to see crazy overpowered fights between crazy overpowered characters, and it's a ton of fun. It's nothing like super heady, it's nothing super deep, but it's just a fun time. Let's keep on that track record of fun but not too heady. Let's talk about Mashle. Is basically, let's say, Harry Potter being made fun of for the whole time. Not exactly that, but like magic schools and whatnot, and that kind of atmosphere. But like, what if some guy was so physically strong that he didn't need magic? And it's a comedy and it's fun, and it goes through it, and like, he has no magic. It's not like he's good at hiding that he doesn't have a lot of magic. He has none. But he's so absurdly strong that like, when you need to fly a broom in a not Quidditch game, then you can just flap your legs really, really hard, and it looks like you're flying. But stuff like that, where it's a blast. It's getting a season 2, which is awesome because this show has a lot of potential to go forward. I think the characters are fun. Obviously, Mashle himself. Mash is the guy. He's the main character, and he's the best character. But there's a lot of world building to do. I mean, the whole school of, you know, different houses to walk down, and it's pure fun. Like, if you're afraid of Zom 100, like scaring you with the zombie stuff, or like Hell's Paradise, like you don't want just action all the time, like you want your nice blend of action comedy, Mashle is where it's at for you. So let's shift gears entirely, and let's go to some anime that are more critically praised. Obviously, none of the shows I've talked about have been like seen as garbage, but I want to talk about some of the real high stuff. So we're going to switch gears crazy to Oshi No Ko. And this show kind of flew out of the gates with a very long feature-length first episode, which sets the stage for our story as a whole. It's about idol culture in Japan, and how it's a very brutal industry, and while being an idol and a singer and an actress and all that, you have to deal with crazed fans to the point where bad things can very easily happen to you and your family, and there's nothing you can really do to stop it. Like, you can try your best, but between like bad people everywhere in the industry, like online, it deals with a lot of heavy themes, and there's even a couple episodes where it gives a trigger warning, which isn't typical for a lot of anime, even if it deals with heavy themes and more brutal stuff. Trigger warnings aren't typically too common in anime, so it's interesting to see it. But it is warranted. Like, those episodes are deep and dark, and they do not pull any punches when it comes to the more serious matters. So I really appreciate a show like this being able to talk so candidly about such horrible things and being able to be true to those experiences. It's great. It's a great show. If you're willing to not put up with, if you're willing to withstand some of the more brutal elements, then it's absolutely worth a watch. So then I want to talk about another show that had another feature-length starting episode. We're talking about Frieren, which is gonna start us on this little train of shows that came out in the fall. So the most recent season of the year, it has been a packed season of new shows, which aren't done yet as the time of recording this, but I have caught up enough and have watched enough to be able to recommend at least the first few episodes of all of these to you. So take these next bunch with a grain of salt, I guess, because they may entirely fall off a cliff, but I doubt any of them will, as long as they are just consistent with the quality that they're already at. They don't need to go up, just consistent, they'd be great. So Frieren, after getting that intro out of the way, is about an elf who ages slower than the other races around here. This is a pure fantasy show, which is very, very cool, because we don't get those a lot in anime. We only get like isekais and stuff, but this is pure fantasy. And it's basically like what happens after the journey is done. For a lot of stories and a lot of tales throughout time, the story is we go, we conquer the beast, and we come home, and then that's it. Like, think of Lord of the Rings, for instance. Like, what happens after that story is done? It tackles it a little bit at the end of the third movies and book, but this show is all about that. Like, the story's done by the time we come into this world, and we can see flashbacks to their time exploring together, this party, but it's all about Frieren, who is an elf, so he ages a lot slower, and so maybe that adventure wouldn't naturally mean as much to her as it would to her other faster growing party members, where 10 years to a human is a tenth of their life, but 10 years to Frieren is only 1/100th. So it's not near as much. It's much slower of a show. It really allows you to breathe in, take the world in at its own pace. It's not quick Like, a lot of anime love to be fast-paced, and that's why I love it, but Frieren slows it down, lets you live in this world and breathe these characters. It's simply wonderful. All right, let's delve into a little bit of some trash, shall we? Too much high praise. So when I say trash, I'm not talking negatively. I'm still recommending these shows, but they're a little bit more trashy than other ones would be. So we're talking about one fantasy, two kind of another. We're talking about Shangri-La Frontier. Shangri-La Frontier is a show about a VR video game where a guy typically likes to play nothing but trash games, nothing but games that are broken inside and out, where a game is nothing but crappy missions that no one wants to play, or mechanics that are broken in favor of the game, or bosses that seem to be bugged out, and he decides to play a game that's actually well made, a game called Shangri-La Frontier, where he is so good at it because he's used to playing controls that are not good. So when he finally has full control and can do anything his character wants, he's able to be excellent at the game. And I like this show quite a bit. It's a fun world, like a lot of these types of shows are, the common trope, but this show is also able to take this character and like kind of wash away all the regular junk we have to deal with. Like, there's no forced harem stuff. It's just him. He's just good at it, and that's it. Like, he's just good at what he's doing, and it's fun to see. So another show that came out this season that's typically not in my wheelhouse, but I saw it got recommended a lot, and the animation style and art really piqued my interest, is Apothecary Diaries. So this is another slower show. It's not overly fast. It's about a girl who was taken in to her local castle to work. It basically as a slave. She gets paid, but basically it's forced employment, so slave. And so she does that for a little bit, but she's actually really going to be an apothecary, so she gets raised up in the ranks, and now she has a higher place position. So that's basically where the story kind of takes place. And it's just the story of her day-to-day life and different things. Like, one episode she's learning how to make chocolate, and one episode she's being kind of a detective. The animation is better than it probably should be. I don't know if that's mean to say, but the animation is wonderful. The story, like I said, it's pretty simple, and the characters are nice. It's just a pleasant show to me so far. One pleasant treat to the next, I want to talk about Shy. So Shy is a superhero anime, which it seems weird after the explosion of My Hero, we didn't get more superhero shows till now, and now I have two. I'll talk about another one after Shy. But Shy is a pretty solid little show where every country gets their own superhero. And of course, the one for Japan is socially anxious and she's shy. Like, that's what it is. Every superhero in this seems to exemplify some of the more negative traits or negative stereotypes of the country that they represent. So, like, the one for Russia is a drunk, the one for Britain is a pompous punk rocker, and stuff like that, where they're stereotypes, but that's just the character basis, and they build more on top of that. It's a solid little show. I like where the story's going. I like the different superheroes, like the different power sets and stuff. And it's pleasant. It's just pleasant to see different takes on superheroes, where over here in the West, we're kind of experiencing some big old MCU burnouts. So getting to see more interesting superheroes is a lot of fun. But if you like your superheroes with a little bit of trashiness, let me introduce you to Undead Unlock. So this show, again, is superhero based, but these characters are insane, and their power sets are insane. So Undead Unlock is about two characters, one who can't die and one who is so unlucky that if you touch her, you'll probably die. So you can see where they can kind of link up, and that's where the story takes us. It's a bit more on the R-rated side, how everything kind of shakes out, and the show definitely isn't one to like show kids that like superheroes. But if you're a fan of some of that trashiness elements and you're a connoisseur of it, then by all means, Undead Unlock should be one for you. So trash, one trash to the next. This show is called 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. If you're looking for some trash, this is the trash for you. Like, if you want to laugh at a show that knows what it is not afraid to be what it is, and is happy to exist, then 100 Girlfriends is going to be right up your alley. It's about a guy who, through some weird mistake, the god of love made sure he would have not just one soulmate, but 100 soulmates. And so, he is on a quest, sort of, to find them all and to date them all. Because if he doesn't, they will die. Because in the rules of this world, the soulmate, a soulmate who does not find their soulmate will die. So of course, he has to have 100 girlfriends, you know? Taking all that stuff away, right? This show does a weirdly good job of painting these characters as actual characters, and they have character growth and arcs and stuff, and while some of them are pretty obvious stereotypes, they get built upon, and they have more interactions, and these relationships do kind of feel genuine, even if, like, he meets somebody and then by the end of the episode, they've completely fallen head over heels for each other. It's more genuine than other romance animes I've seen, even if it's, in this season only there's been 5, but eventually 100 girls to find. I hope it kind of keeps with that, and I'll find it very funny if in, years from now, if we're debating on which girlfriend is the best, and if it's number 38 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe 38's a trash one. Who knows? I don't know. But this show is pure trashy fun. And this one is going to end our discussion on shows that are new. But it's also kind of a spin-off. It is a spin-off. I say kind of. It's definitely a spin-off of an old show. And that is Konosuba, an explosion on this wonderful world. This, of course, is a spin-off of Konosuba, where this is all focused on Megumin. A lot of people's favorite character, so it makes sense why she was chosen to be the one to have her own spin-off. It's just her story on basically her growing up, her going to school, and her finally meeting up with the party. So, if you like Megumin, then by all means give this a shot. If you just want more Konosuba, then by all means give it a shot. If you haven't experienced any of that world, that I find it to be a bit strange to you to watch this. I'd be interested to hear experiences if you kind of went through something like that, but this show is pleasant enough. It's not super duper memorable, but it's nice to be back in the world of Konosuba. And yeah, just exist with it. Like, Megumin isn't my favorite of the party, but I can see why it sees a lot of people's. And it's just a good little show. Like I said, now we've entered the area of old. So, sequels and finales and the like. And I want to start with a show that I think is getting more and more overlooked. When it first came out, it really got a huge explosion. It's Dr. Stone, New World. And this show, it still continues to be one of my consistent favorites. It's just consistently great every time. I remember when the first season came out, people loved it, people loved talking about it, but it's completely fallen off a cliff in terms of popularity, I feel like. And, I'd take a couple minutes here to talk about the show, kind of sing its praises one more time, because it's just great. I know a lot of people probably didn't like the Stone War stuff because it felt like they advanced too quickly, but now we've really been able to focus a lot on a lot of these characters again, and it's a really cool story about how we're in the future, but it feels like the past. So we have science, and we have a really smart main character who's not overpowered in a way of super strong, but he's super smart, so he's able to build different things and create tools, and that's how he wins. It's fun. It's consistently fun. You know it. If you know Dr. Stone, you know it's good. I just feel like a lot of people have kind of lost interest, which is a shame. So I want to get one more show here. It's a little bit more iffy. I think more people know about this show than have seen it. It's Don't Toy Me, Miss Nagatoro, the second attack. So this show I'll be brief on, because if you know the show, you've heard of it, you kind of know if you're going to like it or not. I think it's funny. I think it's enjoyable. I have a good laugh every time a new season comes out, which is cool to say that's happened twice now. It's simple as that. It's a pleasant show. I have fun watching it. I think that's it. Anyways, I'm gonna redeem myself for talking about Nagatoro for only like 30 seconds, but I'm gonna talk about a show that people love. I'm gonna talk about Vinland Saga Season 2. What a show Vinland Saga has been. I feel like historical epics in anime, they just don't happen, and it's seeing one of this caliber, of this level, is wonderful. This is another one of those shows where I feel like I can recommend it to people who don't watch anime. It's just good. Like, it's not anime good. It's not like you have to understand the cultural context or anything like that. It's just good, and it's about, you know, Vikings of the Viking Age. It has real people in it, like Leif Erikson, King Canute, Harold Bluetooth, like names that, like, if you know Viking lore and if you know Viking history, you'll know these names. They exist in this world. The first season is all about like war and brutality, and it's great at that. And this season is a lot more contemplative on like what does that mean to kill, and it's a lot more thinky. So a lot of people kind of fell off, but by all means, stick with it, stick through it. It's wonderful. It's one of the most engaging slow burns I've ever seen. It's one of the most fulfilling experiences you can have as an anime fan, I think. There's three more I want to talk about here. What do I want to go first? Let's go lighthearted, light, not so light, and then definitely not light. We'll go in that order for the rest, shall we? Let's talk about Pokemon for a second here. Pokemon, to be a Pokemon master, is the goodbye season of Ash and Pikachu, and I haven't watched Pokemon anime since Black and White. I remember as a kid starting the Black and White anime and then stopping. Like, Brock's gone, I'm gone. That's basically how it felt. But Brock and Misty are back, and that's kind of fun. This is like, it's a little bit of a celebration of the entire show. It's not as fulfilling as I want it to be. It does have nearly every one of Ash's Pokemon come back. It has a lot of his companions come back. We get to see familiar locales, and even some characters that, if you're a fan of the movie Pokemon Heroes, you will recognize, which is pretty cool. The show is only 11 episodes long. It's not long. It falls into the same trappings of a lot of Pokemon episodes where, oh, Team Rocket shows up, they try to steal Pikachu, we fight them, we win, that's it. That's most of the episode, and that's why I stopped watching it even way back then. And I was kind of reminded of that. I was kind of hoping to see that once, not multiple times in this. I don't know, I have mixed emotions on it. Like, obviously saying goodbye is never easy, so I was never going to be like, oh yeah, I loved it, and I can't wait to see more, because there's no more. This is it for Ash and Pikachu, I assume. I don't think they'll be back for anything more, but it's, you know, bittersweet saying goodbye to a childhood friend. I wish their goodbye could have been a little bit better, but that's what it is. And then another show where I used to be a diehard defender of it. I still am. I say I'm not a huge fan of it still. Let's talk about Demon Slayer, the Swordsmith Village, for a little bit. So Demon Slayer this season, a lot of people's least favorite season, mine included. It's much slower, it's much goofier, it's much more back heavy than a lot of Demon Slayer has been. It's still good. I still think people were looking for a reason to hate on Demon Slayer because of its overwhelming popularity, but I might be wrong. I didn't love every part of the season like I have with other seasons, but I still had a lot of fun with it. I still like Tanjiro and Nezuko's story. Of course, I missed my best boy Inosuke, but it's great. It's still really good, and it's when it's hype, it's beyond hype, and when it's emotional, it can be really emotional. And I don't know why they made the first episode and the last episode 40 minutes if it felt more dragged out. Like, I feel like you could have chopped those up 20 minutes apiece and then put those into other stuff so it wouldn't have felt as draggy. But hey, you know, it's still Demon Slayer, and I'll rewatch it someday. Maybe I'll enjoy it more knowing that the pacing isn't as hot, but even still, like, one of my friends is watching it right now and he doesn't think it's as great as it used to be either. But I'm excited for because we're almost done. The story of Demon Slayer, which is crazy to say. So I'm excited to see where the story goes next. And yeah, the final anime we're talking about here is very fitting. It is Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter. Attack on Titan is done. It ended. Finally. And it's been a little bit now, recording this, after it happened. and it was still, I think, one of the best endings that anime has to offer. It is wonderful. It is devastating. It is not a fully happy ending. It is not a fully devastating ending. It messes with both. It is able to be exciting, it is able to be tragic, and we see all these characters that we have come to know. Some hate to love, some love to hate, and it's crazy to think about the whole story of this show. And the story where it finally came to an end. Like, I remember watching this, and there were some characters that I have hated for years, and I finally, like, turned on them a little bit. And there's some characters that I've hated for years that I didn't, and there's some that I've loved for years that I love more. And it's just crazy to think about how long this show has been going on, and how many people it's affected, and how many fans it has, and it's wonderful to see something like this stick the landing. And like I said in my own video about Attack on Titan, I don't know where the manga fans are coming from. I'd like to know. I'd like to discuss with one where exactly, like, they saw fault and how this ending came out, because what I understand, it's pretty similar. I haven't read the manga myself, so I don't know, but I don't know how they could see this and think that it's not fulfilling and satisfying as an ending, but to each their own. But that will do it for the best anime of 2023, all 18 of these shows. All shows, no movies, because if a movie is good enough, it'll end up on my best of the year film list. But all 18 of these are well worth your time if they seemed interesting to you. Have you seen any of these? I hope so, because there's a lot of them here. Were there any big ones I didn't talk about here? I know there are some big ones that not like big popular ones, but like some more popular ones that I haven't seen yet, some that I haven't caught up with yet, stuff like that. I'm always working to catch up on stuff. I'm just one guy until I can do this full time. This is by far the best I've ever done, so I'm pretty proud of that. So yeah, that'll about do it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching, and as always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at some point.